Parshas Lecha. I'm going to summarize. So we're in the third Parsha of the Torah. We started Parashas with the creation of the world, 10 generations. Then we had Noach, the story of the flood, the destruction of the world, the Dor HaFlaga, where the one language divided into 70. And then we fast forward at the end of Noach to the birth of Avraham. We have no idea who Avraham is. And now we pick up, and this is like probably one of the most pivotal parshos in the Torah that tell us about the birth of our nation, our inherent connection to Eretz Yisrael, when Hashem gave us the promise that Eretz Yisrael will belong to us, how we were formed as a nation. So this parsha is so historically dense. It's our answer to the people who call us occupiers. It's our claim to Eretz Yisrael. It's so many things. It's the birth of the beginning of the fight of the friction between Yishmael and Yitzchak, between the two nations that are fighting now. It's the beginning of everything. So this parsha spans 24 years because it begins when Avraham is 75 years old, and it ends when Avraham is instructed to get a bris when he is how old? 99 years old, right? So that is the span of this week's parsha. So we don't know anything about Avraham, and from when he's born in last week's parsha, it just says that his father had a few children and that he got married to Sarai. That's all we know about him, and that who his brother married, and we got married to a girl named Sarai, who Rashi tells us is his first cousin, right? It's his brother's daughter. That's all we know so far about Avraham. Now we fast forward, we don't know anything about him, and it's 75 years later. Now we grew up, many of us grew up with stories about Avraham Avinu, about how he broke the idols of his father, and he put the big hatchet in the biggest idol's hand and said that he did it. And his father said, what do you mean he's made the stone? He said, so why are you worshiping him? We know the story of Avraham discovering God and looking at the world and said, who made this world? Right? All those stories we hear about. Then we hear about how Nimrod threw Avram in the fiery furnace and he came out alive. All those stories are not in the text of the Torah. All the stories are alluded to in Midrashim, where it says that Avram left Ur Kasdim. From there we learn about the fiery furnace, from the hint of the name of the place, Ur Kasdim, etc. In the Torah itself, we literally know that Avram is born, he marries Sarah, and then he's 75 years old. He's living with his father and his nephew Lot, and Hashem tells them to leave Haran and travel to the land where I will tell you. And that's where we are right now. So this week's parsha now picks up where Avram is 75. Hashem tells him, Lecha, to leave and go somewhere where I will show you. That place ends up being the land of Canaan, where Hashem says, there I will make you into a great nation. Avram is childless at that time. And Hashem brings him to Eretz Yisrael. When he gets there, he makes a mizbeach and spreads the message of Hashem, has a lot of guests. Then there's a famine, and he's forced to go to Egypt for food. And there he hides Sarah, and when he gets there, he realizes that Sarah is beautiful. They're going to take him. He hides Sarah in a box. She's taken anyways, and the plague prevents the king from touching her. And then he convinces them to leave. He sends them out of Egypt with gold, silver, cattle, and they go back to Canaan. Back in Canaan, Lot separates from Avraham because there is the friction between Lot's shepherds and Avram's shepherds. This is such a big land. You go one way, I'll go whatever way you go. You go to the west, I'll go to the east. You go to the east, you go to the west. Lot ends up going to the evil city of Sodom. Avram settles peacefully wherever he is. I forget where it is. Alon Mamre, probably. I forgot. And if Avram finds out that Lot fell captive with the mighty army when he was fighting with the four kings who were trying to conquer Sodom. So Avram goes with a few people to rescue his nephew. He defeats the four kings and is blessed by Melchizedek. And then Avram is afraid and worried, and thereafter is where this pivotal moment in history happens, where is the covenant between the parts, the Bris Bein Absarim, where Hashem promises Avram two things: that he's going to be a great nation, although Avram is an old man at this time, and he has this promise that he's going to become a great nation. And Hashem tells him to look at the stars and see how innumerable they are, and he tells Avraham, you were a fatherless, infertile child, that the stars tell you you're infertile, your wife is in her 90s, you're going to have a child. Not only you're going to have a child, but your descendants will be innumerable like the stars and like the sand. And we are those descendants, right? All of us are the promise that Hashem fulfilled. Avram could have never have even dreamed at the time that it would be fulfilled in such a way that we're innumerable, we're uncountable, we're innumerable, and that we would survive for so many generations. And that is the second part of the bris, is that this whole land, everything you see from the river, from the Jordan to all the way up to from one sea to the next sea, all of this is going to be, I'm giving it to you, and I'm promising this land to you and to your children. And this is the bris. Then Avraham, the craziest, I'm gonna go into that text in a moment. The parsha ends that Avraham is still childless. So Sarai, tells Avraham to marry Hagar, her main servant. Hagar becomes pregnant. She has Yishmael, and she becomes insolent. She's a thorn in Sarah's side. She mocks her and taunts her. And when Sarah begins to retaliate and treat her harshly, she runs away. The angel convinces her to come back. and tells her that her son will father a populous nation, and Yishmael is born when Avram is 86 years old. So I guess Avram is in his 80s. I think he's 85 at the birth of Sarah. Now I remembered from my childhood learning. It paid off. 13 years later, Hashem changes Avram's name to Avraham. So he's 99 years old when Hashem changes his name to Avraham. He adds the Hey to his name, and he promises them that they will have a son, and from this son will stem the great nation that Hashem will establish his bris with. And Avram is then commanded to have a bris milah, and he does so. At 99 years old, he has a bris milah, and all the males of his household, and the parsha ends. Okay, now we're going to first go back we're going to cover a few topics, but the topic that's related to what's happening now and our situation now is just revisiting when we were promised our land, because one of the things that we need to have as a nation is confidence, to be able to be confident in the face of people challenging us. There's even Jewish people who are starting to question, like, wait, is it really our land? Are we colonizing them? Are we oppressing their land? Were they here first? Were they here and we just kicked them out and took their land? We need to be able to firmly say, this is our land. We didn't take it from anybody. This was our land to begin with. This is where we received it. Yishmael was not given this land. We were given this land, and way before Yishmael even populated the earth, way before way before there was even Palestine, it belonged to Avram and his descendants. It was never. So we need to be able to be very confident in our claim to Eretz Yisrael and not waver on that. And our confidence is what's going to cause our enemies to respect us, and for us to respect ourselves. So the confidence comes from this week's parsha. Let's open up. Let's do it in the text. Says that I'm the one who took you from Ur Kasdim to give you this land. These are the words. Vayomer elav ani Hashem asher tzisicha mi Ur Kasdim, from the land where you were born in the furnace. L'seis lecha es eretz azos l'rishta, to give you this land to inherit. Vayomer Adonai Adonai. Bama eidak kirishena, with what will I know that I will? How will I know that it's mine? Vayomer 11, he said, let's make a promise to seal the deal. So he says, take the animals. He says, take three young cows, 3 goats, 3 rams, a turtle dove, and young bird. And Rashi Mefarshim go into the significance of the Jewish history of what each of these represents: the 3 Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the 3 mothers, etc. The first Beis Hamikdash, second Beis Hamikdash, third Beis Hamikdash. He takes all of them. The Yikach, let's call Ela, Vayavater Osam Batavech. Right? He cuts each one in the middle. He puts one part opposite the other, but he doesn't cut the birds because those represent the Jewish people. Birds of prey descend upon the carcasses before he does the bris, and Avram drives them away. And some say that this represents the enemies that come to time and time again, the prey that tried to destroy us, and Avram drove them away and said, no, my people are eternal. And Vayihi Hashemesh Lavo. So that's the bris that Avram makes. Avram drives. Then the sun, it was ready to set. A deep sleep falls upon Avram. Now, I don't know if this is a pasuk that we're less familiar with as a child, but this is very, very connected to what's happening right now. That the sun is about to set, and suddenly a deep sleep falls upon Avram. Right? He's in the middle of doing the bris. He hasn't walked through it, and then suddenly he falls asleep. Right? He gets very tired. And obviously it's from God. And there's a frightening darkness falling upon him. And Rashi says that this darkness that fell upon him was the exiles, what he saw right now, that Abraham felt and sensed the darkness that's going to fall upon all of his descendants. And it trembled him with fear, and it made him go into this deep, deep trembling and deep fear, seeing what we will go through, seeing the Holocaust we go through time and time again, the Spanish Inquisition, every golus that we go through, and seeing what would happen to his descendants made him, was a frightening darkness. And that's how we could describe, I think that those 2 words could describe what's happening now. Tardema, a frightening darkness. Ema chashecha gedola, right? Sorry, not tardema means a deep sleep. Ema chashecha gedola nofeles alav. And what did Hashem say to Avram in this moment? Vayomer la'Avram, Yadoa Teda, Kigeri Yezaracha Be'eretz Olahem. You should know that your children will be strangers in a land that's not theirs. That's Mitzrayim, the first time we were exiled. Va'avadum, the Inum, Osam Ba'arba Me'oshana, and they will be enslaved and tortured for 400 years. The Gamas Hagoy Asher Avoided Dananaichi, but then even the nations that will enslave them, I will judge them. I will judge them. I will punish them, and then they will leave with tremendous wealth. Wealth doesn't mean just financial wealth, because we know that it wouldn't be worth it to go through that, but they'll be leave with all of the sparks of the nations that they have to uplift with them. And the purpose of why they're here, we are light workers. We're here to take darkness into light, and through being in exile in Egypt, we will come out with the wealth of the darkness that we've transformed into light. Before any of this happens, you will pass away in peace, and you'll be buried in good old age, right? The Dor Revi'i Yeshuvu Hinam. And then he says, after 3 generations, after Egypt, the 4th generation will come back to Eretz Yisrael. And he's promising him that we'll come back to Eretz Yisrael. He lo shalim aven amori ad hena. Because the Amorim will not be completely sinful until then. Until 4 generations pass, the Amorim will not sin enough to merit or deserve us killing them all and driving them out of their land. They have to do something bad. Then they'll do something bad. Then they'll deserve us coming back and killing all of their Amorim and driving them out of the land. But until then, they will not have deserved it yet. Then when the sun had set, it became dark. Look, there was a smoking furnace. Suddenly there's a fiery torch passing through the parts. He sees the torch of God, the Shekhinah of Hashem, in an actual fire passing through the 2 sides of the animals that he prepared. And then it says, on that day, Bayamahu Karas Hashem is Avram bris, Lemor Zaracha Natati. And that day Hashem made a bris with Avram, saying, Lizaracha, to your descendants, Asati et Aretz, I gave this land, Minahar Mitzrayim, from the river of Egypt, Ad Hanar Gadol Nahar Prat, until the great river, the Euphrates River, which is where, guys? Help me out.
It's in Iraq.
What?
It's in Iraq.
In Iraq?
Euphrates?
Okay, in Iraq. Etzakeni, Etzaknezi, Vekadmoni, Achiti, Prisi, from all of these nations, Vesamori, Vesakani, Vesagashi, Vesevusi. So that is the end of the covenant. Later on, when Hagar has a child, Hashem tells them that it's not going to be Ishmael, it's going to be through Yitzchak that's going to be the one to inherit the land, and all your descendants will come from. So the knowledge that Avraham Avinu saw what we're going through already and saw the darkness, and that this scary darkness, but also that Hashem said that we're going to prevail, should fill us with the greater picture to see that we've gone through this time and time again. We've been persecuted over and over again, and we've always come out on the other side. And we've never been, no matter how great the nations and how small we were, we've never been squashed. And every single one of our oppressors over the years don't exist anymore, right? They've all come and gone. Great nations, way larger than us, with armies much bigger than ours, have come and gone, but we've never gone away. And the reason for this, and the source for this, and the reason that we've not gone away is because our source is Ani Hashem Lo Shinisi. We come straight from Hashem Hu Lo Shinisi. Other nations come from the channels. Hashem connects to all of us through Tzimtzumim, through channels, through mazalos, through constellations, through all of his other channels. But when we connect to divinity, to the source of everything, to Ani Havaya Lo Shinisi, to Hashem that doesn't change, because we stem straight from there, we also don't change. We're eternal. Hashem is eternal. There's no way to destroy God. There's no way to destroy his people who come directly from Ani Hashem Lo Shinisi. And one thing that a practical message we can take from this in developing our strength and our resilience in the face of all the oppression that we're facing, what we could do as a nation is connect ourselves to things that are eternal. Because when we connect ourselves to things that are fleeting, when our strength and base comes from our materialistic things, and materialistic things are not stable, they come and go. So our foundation is very shaky. And in a moment, if our whole foundation is based on our social stance, our followers, our material wealth, our home, our house that we live in, if that's what gives us strength and resilience, knowing that we have a house, that we have strength, that we have a fortune, that we have money, that we have status, that we have a job, if that's what gives us our strength, that is such a shaky foundation, because that foundation can be taken in a minute. Someone's house could be burned down in a minute. Someone's material possessions could be taken in a minute. Someone's social status, from one day they could be the most loved person in the world and become the most hated person on the planet. If that's what's building someone up, that they are the greatest person in the world, that can be taken in a second. It could be crushed and taken away. But anything physical, everything physical in the world is transient. Everything materialistic in the world is transient, because it's not emes. It's here one day and it's gone the next day. But if we connect ourselves to things that are eternal, but are spiritual, if we could build up our spiritual resources and our spiritual foundation to things that are eternal, to love, to our identity as a Jewish nation, to Hashem, to Minmuna, to Bitachon, if that becomes our greatest source of strength, if knowing that we have love with connection to people, even if that person, our connection to people on our soul level is so great that even if that person, God forbid, is not with us in this world, our connection to them still exists eternally. So if we can focus on things that are eternal, our connections with the people that we love, the love that we give, the mitzvos, the deeds that we do last forever, the Torah that we learn, the bitachon that we have, if our resilience comes from building all of those things, connecting to my sense of self and great self, is not because other people like me or because I'm accomplishing, but because my neshama is a piece of Hashem, and my neshama is beloved by Hashem, and it's indestructible. And it's because my soul is beloved to Hashem, not because of any external accomplishments that I have or my body. If I connect myself and my strength and my greatness to my body, to my looks, to my externals, that goes in a moment, right? That fades. But if my strength and self-love and self-worth comes from my neshama, that's eternal, that never goes anywhere. So even if somebody's body were to become disfigured, their sense of love and self-love and self-worth is from their neshama, which never ever changes, which can never be broken. So what we can do right now is continue to build our connection and build our foundation for us and our children to the things that are eternal, to Ani Shamoshi Nisi, to all the things that don't fade away over time, the things that are eternal, that last forever. Builds our connection to our love in a way that is eternal, not based on externals that pass, but based on eternal connection. Now we're going to skip back now. So now we spoke about the bris bein absarim. Hi, Sarah. We're going to skip to the beginning. We're going to flip now to the beginning of the parsha, because it is very. Let's talk about the parsha. Parsha Lecha begins when Avraham is 75 years old. We said, and it's so unusual because we don't know anything about Avram's childhood. Why is Hashem picking him now? Him to be the one to come to Eretz Yisrael and inherit Israel? Based on what? All we know that he was born and that he married Sarai. On what merit is he taking him? Who is this guy? What do we know about Abraham, right? From the text, we know nothing about him. What are we learning about him? So there's a lot to discuss about what happened now. Where are the gaps, and what is it telling us from this point, from 75 years old? That's clearly the most important things that we need to know about our father, Avraham Avinu. So we're going to discuss that. The very first pasuk in this parsha is the first conversation Hashem has with a Jew, with Avraham Avinu, the first Jew. There's no conversation with Avram until now. Noach was a Noahide, he was not a Jew. So let's look at that pasuk and dissect it and see what we can learn from the first instruction, the first conversation between God and a Jew. Vayomer Hashem al Avraham, Lech lecha me'artzecha mimoladetecha mibeis avicha al aretz asher areka. I want you to memorize that pasuk. It should be engraved on your soul. It's the first pasuk in your source sheet. Every word in this pasuk has layers and layers and layers of depth. First of all, let's go word by word. Lech lecha, on a pshat level, what does lech lecha mean? Go. Lech lecha, you go. Go on to somewhere. Why the double lashon lech lecha? So first, let's dissect that word. Chassidus tells us on a deeper level, lech lecha. First, on Rashi says, why the double lashon? On a pshat level, it's go for yourself, because it's going to be for your benefit. I'm telling you to go, not for me, for you, because when you go, you're going to become a great nation, because the next pasuk says you're going to have children, you're going to have wealth, you're going to have fame. Go for yourself. On a deeper level, what does Chassidus tell us? Lech lecha, go to yourself. I want to take you on a journey, not just to a place on the map, but on a journey to your greatest self. I want you to travel to a level in yourself that you have been unable to reach until now. So Lech lecha is the instruction of Hashem to every single Jew, at every single moment, at every single day, to travel to yourself. Hashem is telling us that as Jewish people, as human beings, we're defined by being mahalchim. We're mahalchim. We're people who journey. We're journeyers. We constantly go. Malachim, angels, are omdim. We're called omdim. They have one foot because they don't have to go. They stay in one place. As human beings, because we have so many opportunities to struggle and fail and fall, we are walking. Right? Angels just stay in one place in holiness. But we are walking. We're moving. Sometimes backwards, sometimes forwards. But we're always journeying and traveling. We're never staying. So Lech lecha means to always go somewhere. Always have a goal. You never reach it. Never say, oh, I reached my goal. I'm just going to live my life in peace. Right? We know what happens in the Torah. And someone says, I just want to live my life in peace. We're not here in this world to just stand in one place. We're here in the world to journey, to move. And that movement sometimes takes us what feels like backwards, or it is backwards. And sometimes we see in this week's Parsha that Avram Avinu, one of his 10 tests, we know that Avram has 10 tests. One of his 10 tests was that as soon as he comes to Eretz Yisrael, he's only there for a short time, and Hashem tells him to go to Egypt. He doesn't tell him. Hashem makes a famine and forces him to leave Egypt. And he's saying, wait, I thought you want me to journey to Eretz Yisrael, now I'm going backwards? That was one of his tests, to trust Hashem, that sometimes in the journey of life, we have to move backwards. And sometimes the journey takes us in circles, because life is not linear. We don't go from point A to point B. If we did that, we'd be angels. Life is a circular. We go in circles, we go backwards, we go forwards. It's a Ferris wheel of life. Sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down, right? Sometimes our enemy's up, we're down. And in that circle of life, in that struggle, in that moving backwards and forwards, that's where we grow. That's where all of our growth is. That's where all of the true connection, growth, and real connection happens. In those moments of struggle, of going up and down and moving backwards. So Lech lecha is that we are people that journey. The word halacha, what connects us to Hashem is halacha. Halacha is the same word as halicha, to go. We're people that move. We're moving, we're climbing. What happens to, a mushal is that what happens to water, that with water stays, if you ever go to Mayan in Israel that is green, it's because it's not moving. When water stays in one place, it starts to stink. When something stays in one place, it starts to smell. It's even better that something moves backwards than stays in one place. You might think, well, I'd rather stay where I am than slide backwards. No, if you're working on yourself, if you're trying to grow and you end up moving backwards and backwards, that might be part of the process. In growth, a lot of times it unearths and brings up trauma and things that makes us slide backwards. But it's much better for water to be moving backwards or for something to be moving for you to be moving in the wrong direction than not to be moving at all. Even if you're moving in the wrong direction, that's part of your growth, right? If sometimes in the journey to find Hashem, we move in the wrong direction, but that brings us closer to Hashem. That's part of the growth. That's part of movement, and it's not going to stink. But if you stay in one place, that's what starts to smell. And yeah, if someone makes Aliyah and says, "Oh, I'm done. Like I did it. I made Aliyah. I live in Israel. My growth has reached its pinnacle. I'm at the top of the mountain. Now I'm just going to chill." That's when trouble starts happening. So we never want to stop. We never want to rest. Our growth is eternal. And we're so thankful that we have eternal levels to grow, and we don't just have to stay in one place and have that emptiness of just like, what now, right? We never have a what now. We're always moving, and it's not always linear. And so that's the word Lecha. Now, Lecha number 2 is go to yourself. That Hashem is telling Abraham, I want to take you on a journey to your highest self. That very often, the message in this is that very often we often think that we all know that we have more potential. Hopefully everyone sitting here knows that there's untapped potential, that we know that we're not all fulfilling our potential. Even in our intellectual capacity, we're probably tapping into a tiny percentage of our intellectual capacity, of all of our capacity to accomplish. We all know that no one besides a perfect tzaddik who lived out his days perfectly is fulfilling their entire potential. So hopefully we know there's more potential. But often we feel that the inhibitors to accessing and utilizing our greatest potential comes from, all the life stressors. But the truth is that is true. But our greatest limitation to our potential is usually ourselves. It's usually our own not even knowing our greatest potential. It's usually that we don't even know how great we could be. We don't even know how great our soul is. And this reminds me of a story of a Dean Steinsaltz, Rav Steinsaltz, who says that he went to the rabbi. He was a genius. He translated the Steinsaltz Gemara. He translated and wrote commentary, like 20 volumes on Tanya. He had thousands of other projects of writing, of public speaking, of running a yeshiva, of running a shul, and he had so many projects going on at the same time. And one time he had a bunch of projects. He went to the rabbi. He said, "I can't do all of them. Which one should I drop? I don't know which one. I need to know which one should I prioritize?" And the rabbi said, "Do all of them and take on more." and he did. And he says that the rabbi was like somebody who he said it's like there's an eagle who thinks that he's a duck. And I thought this was hysterical when I heard him saying it on the video the first time. And the Rebbe shows you that you're really an eagle. And sometimes we don't even know that we're an eagle. We have this potential. Hashem gave us so much potential, but we look at ourselves as a duck, and we don't even realize that we're an eagle. So we sometimes are not even aware of our greatest potential, and that's probably sometimes the biggest inhibitor to us accessing our greatest potential. Because as a child, we believe the world's limit. As a little child, like, I'm going to be prime minister, I'm going to be a mermaid, I'm going to be the president of the United States, I'm going to be a pilot. And I think about this, I hope he doesn't mind me, I'm not going to say his name, I don't want to embarrass him, but there's somebody in the Dagan who is a really close friend of ours, who is literally like, I feel like he's somebody who never said no, and never had that voice of adulthood creep in, well, you can't do all that, or no adult ever said, well, you have to choose one. He's a doctor, a lawyer, a mohel, a shochet. What else is he? You guys know? He's a mohel, a shochet. He's serving in the army now. He's a few more things. Sofer, and a bunch of other things. He did like law school he did medical school while he was like law school while he's a doctor. Like this, and he's a dad of 3. So, and he's a rabbi, and he's a teacher in a yeshiva. So this guy does all of it at the same time. So that's like, sometimes, and he's not like, he wasn't like born, like he doesn't have like a special, like wealthy parents who funded everything. He wasn't born in any special circumstances. He's born to like a normal family. So I feel that often we are our own biggest limitation. So Hashem says, Avram, Lech Lecha, go to your highest self. You don't even know how great you could be. Avram reached so much greatness. He discovered God. He spread monotheism. He broke the idols. He escaped from a fiery furnace. And Hashem says, that's not even the half of it. You haven't even reached the closest of your greatest potential. Lech Lecha is telling all of us, go to your highest potential. Go tap into your soul and see the depths and greatness that you have in your soul that you don't even know that is there, that you're not even aware. Explore and see how great your potential is. You think age is a problem? You think you're 70 years old, you're 75 years old, and that's it, your potential's done? Think again, right? You're 90 years old, Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 years old. Never use your age as an excuse to think, oh, I don't have potential, I have no more potential. Potential is eternal. The Rebbe spoke to people, most of the leaders became leaders when they were in their 70s and 80s. And so Hashem speaks to, what?
I'm smiling.
Yes, and we have so many reasons that we think that we limit ourselves, and we forget to look at our soul. Our soul is infinite. It's a piece of infinity of Hashem. It's limitless. Now, the catch is that the reason that Chassidus tell him the Torah only begins Avram's life when he's 75 years old is because until now, Avram reached his potential that he could reach on his own. That he reached until 75, he was able to maximize his own potential with his own resources. Now Hashem says, now that you've reached the highest potential that you put on your own, I'm going to take you to a way greater potential that you could only reach when you attach yourself to Ein Sof. Right? Avram had no connection to, he didn't have conversations with God. He wasn't even he didn't have the Torah yet, the knowledge of the Torah. And Hashem says, now I'm going to reveal myself to you. And with the connection to Hashem, you're going to reach way greater heights than you could reach on your own. And we have to, so that's where the Torah begins. That there's man on his own, and then there's man when he attaches himself to the infinite. And that's a recurring theme in this week's Parsha. It happens over and over again when Hashem takes Avram above the stars and says that later on in the Parsha, right before by the Bris and Efrat, when Hashem takes him outside, it says Vayotze osa achutza. Hashem took him out. The Rashi tells us that he brought him. There's two opinions: A, that he brought him outside, but the second one is that he put him on top of the stars and said that yes, naturally you're under the influence of the stars, but a Jew connects the Torah to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I can take you above the stars. So if yes, they're naturally on your own. There's limits you could get to. You can get to great heights. People can achieve greatness on their own. But if you connect to the infinite, you're gonna go bypass all of the stars, all of the constellations, all of the conduits and the mediums, and you could go straight to infinity and not be blocked. And we spoke about this in Parshas Bereshis, where Hashem created nature. We said Hashem created the world for two things, for Torah and Bereshis, and Bnei Israel. So yes, there's finite. Yes, there's nature. Yes, nature has its laws. But if the whole nature was created for Bnei Israel to keep the Torah, when you connect to the Torah, when Bnei Israel keep the Torah, the nature doesn't block you. So again, this is the same theme. Hashem is saying you're above the stars. And later, when we accepted the Torah, we all received the